Oh, yeah.
You heard that guy. He used to be a active professor, then he declined, then he took the step, he came back and started teaching it. I'm telling the same thing. My older brother has the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so. But again, he doesn't want to do that. It's their choice.
How old?
70.
After about 80, they don't want to do anything.
They're not.
Really? What's it going to be that old? Well, that'll do it. You know what I always say. And why they got killed again, right?
Write me that check in for the foundation. In the mailbox.
Last Thursday, went to the doctor. The doctor actually had to tell us. He's not live until 80. I don't think any doctor should.
I wanted to see if they had any footage. It all depends on what you're going to do. So I look at these actions.
Oh, really?
I said, that's as good a planning factor as anybody else would do.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a detailed thing, you know, how long did your parents live? Did you smoke, did you drink, did you this, you wear your seatbelt, you drive the speed limit, it was really detailed. But it's good answer that. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's not in your hands, it's up there. Somebody's pulling those buttons. They plant an electrode inside. And we give you a new.
There's a new one in Beavercreek,
That particular node. I think it was his.
How's it going?
But maybe he said it took him a year, but he's, I mean, I wouldn't say 100%, but back 95% back in nature.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. The interesting thing about Parkinson's disease, there's a marker in your system. They say that a lot of people.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Beavercreek Rotary, Super Bowl 56th edition. Who Day.
It's a Bengals edition.
Who Day, all day. I'd like to thank our greeters, Brian and Karen Lampton. Thank you for the flowers. It's my first and probably only Valentine's gift I'll get, so thank you. I'd like to thank Eric Marcus as our ticket master, Mike Zwick, Pete Bales, Mark Weinstein for our great programs, Jim Gunno and Alex O'Hara for the website and YouTube, and Pete Landrum, our Zoom guy. Kind of want to do something a little different today. Speaking of the Bengals and soon to be champions, kind of a cool story. As some of you probably know, they went to the Super Bowl in 81 and 88. But there are three words that completely changed the NFL, and it all started with the Bengals. Those 3 words are Fulcher to stay. So essentially in '84, the Bengals hired Coach Sam, who actually helped develop the no huddle, which I did not realize. But more specifically, what he did was he promoted Coach Dick LeBeau from the linebacker or the linebackers coach to the defensive coordinator. You probably recognize his name because he went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are actually pretty well known for their defense, but that all started with the Bengals. So essentially at that time, so when in '84, when the coach was hired, the West Coast dominated their offense because they tried something new in the offense, and that was pretty much called a hot read. So the quarterback would read that there would be a blitz. He'd call it hot read, and it would be a short throw to the receiver. So at that time, the West Coast was just dominating offensively. So focusing on the defense, in 1986, the year I was born, the Bengals drafted a strong safety from Arizona State. He was a junior, and his name's David Fulcher. So David Fulcher would later be coined as Faux Rock. Essentially, he was obviously a really fast person. He was a safety, but he was also super big. So he was built like a linebacker. So what Coach LeBeau did was, for the first time in the NFL, they did what they call now is a zone blitz. So again, imagine the quarterback. He's reading that it's a blitz. So he knows he's going to do a quick throw. So what Coach LeBeau did was, instead of, the quarterback would come back, get ready for a short throw, he'd see the safety blitzing. And what would happen was, so actually the first time that happened was the linebacker for the Bengals, Reggie Williams, called from the sidelines, Fulcher to stay, Fulcher to stay. So essentially, Fulcher would blitz, which the quarterback, had seen 100 million times. But for the first time ever, the nose guard actually ran back into coverage. So that way he was covering the short throw. So again, for the first time in the NFL ever, actually it was dubbed first zone. So again, the Bengals started all of that. And of course, LeBeau would eventually go to the Steelers. He would coin that there at the Steelers, and the Steelers would dominate in the defense. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So 2 things: 1, zone blitz, as well as the no huddle. So I did not realize the Bengals were one of the first teams to do that. So,
And they invented the West Coast offense with Walsh.
yeah. And then let's fast forward to today in 2022, the Bengals win the Super Bowl. So with that being said, would you like to come up and do our invocation, please?
Happy to. Good afternoon. Would you join me in prayer? Blessed are you, Lord of creation. You feed the whole world with your goodness and grace, your kindness and your mercy. You nourish and sustain us and do good to all of us. Bless this food for our use and for your Rotary service. Amen.
I actually would like make a small announcement. Why is his name slipping me now? James Investments, what's his?
David.
Yeah. So
David of James Investments died Monday. He's the son of Barry.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
His brother.
brother.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, Barry's brother David passed away Monday. So definitely keep him in your thoughts and prayers. All right, Secretary's report. David Cusack.
We have, as a guest, our elected clerk of courts and prospective member, AJ Williams.
AJ Williams, welcome. Good to see you.
Attendance thus far of 54%.
All right. Looks like we have Scott Hadley online, Sandy Brew Baker, and Jay Hebrink. Thank you for joining us on Zoom. Sergeant at Arms, Brian Lampton.
Right, so our weather today, high 48, rainy, likely starting at around 2 o'clock. Tomorrow, cooling, high, it's going to be high 39 early, and it's going to continue to cool off. It'll be cloudy. Super Bowl Sunday, slight chance of that S word, high 26. In the news today, there's a place on East 1st Street called Mike's Bike Park. If you've never heard of it or seen it, it's basically an indoor track with ramps and hills and all kinds of stuff. It actually spans 2 floors of this old foundry. So you can bring your own bike, or you can just show up and rent one. They'll sell you a bike or 2 there as well. They'll also fix your bike. They got scooters. They also plan to open a new place in Huber Heights. So those of you that are avid bicyclists, don't really want to get out in the S word, you can go to Mike's Bike Park down there and enjoy a ride. A photograph from a tornado damaged home was found 130 miles away. So this lady found this photo on the windshield of her car. This was after the Kentucky tornadoes. She posted this photo because there was writing on the back on the Facebook. And sure enough, between this guy knowing that guy, knowing that guy, the owner of the picture from Dawson Springs, Kentucky, was able to collect the photo from the lady in New Albany, Indiana. Can you imagine that? 130 miles away. Those of you who are interested in purchasing property and a potential business opportunity, I saw this on the internet, so it must be true. The Love Ranch brothel near Las Vegas is for sale. Okay, it's priced over 1.2 million. It's in Crystal, Nevada. It's over 80 miles from Vegas. Apparently, it's near the California border, of course. The buyer gets a building with 15 one-bedrooms, a limo, 75 acres that could either be a spa or a hemp farm. That was right out of the article. I thought, all righty then. So you entrepreneurs, you got a business opportunity waiting for you in Vegas. Of course, now in sporting news, it is senior night tonight for the men's basketball team at Beavercreek. We face Fairmont, and among the seniors honored, we have special recognition for a senior name of Gabe Phillips. Now, you all know that last name. He is the 3rd generation to play basketball at Beavercreek. Our very own Ed Phillips played back in 55 to 57. Now, Gabe has broken the GWalk record for the most blocked shots in his career. He is the most in the entire GWalk. He also has the record for 3 consecutive years leading the GWalk in blocked shots. So, and if those of you that don't know, Gabe is the son of Larry and Sheila. Okay, other sporting news, Super Bowl Sunday. We got Cincinnati, the AFC champions, facing the NFC champions, the LA Rams. And we all know this is Cincinnati's 3rd trip to the big show, and they have no Super Bowl wins. So there's a few questions here. See if they put your Super Bowl trivia hats on. Who won the first 2 Super Bowls? Green Bay. And those of you that recall the history of that, that was when the AFL and the NFL got together, and the commissioner of the new NFL told Lombardi at the time, "Thou shalt not lose to the AFL." He was really told, do not lose that game. So they won the first 2. Who was the AFC or would have been AFC team that won that 3rd Super Bowl?
Yes.
The Jets, led by quarterback Broadway Joe Namath. And if you recall at the beginning of the season, what did Namath do? Namath predicted they were going to win the Super Bowl that year at the beginning of the season. What is the trophy called? The Lombardi Trophy. What is this year's cost for a 30-second television ad? A little higher. I heard it, 6.5 million. Which team, I didn't want to do which team won the most Super Bowls because I can't stand them. Which team has lost the most Super Bowls?
Buffalo, 4 in a row.
No, but that's what I thought. The Denver Broncos, they are 3-5. But there are 2 teams that have never won that have lost 4, and that is Buffalo and the Vikings, correct. And of course, Buffalo has a record for losing 4 in a row. Vegas has LA, the odds at 3.5 points, which is interesting if you think about it, because they're the home team. Okay. So normally home teams get 3 points. So if you actually think about it, really, they're only favored by 0.5 point. At the beginning of the season, what were the Bengals odds for winning the Super Bowl? It's 150 to 1. So congratulations to those of you that placed the bet on that.
Nobody in this room.
Yeah, it wasn't me. On this day in history in 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from his 27 years in prison. In related news, in 1878, the first bicycle club was formed in Boston. And in 1970, Japan launched its first satellite. A lot of notable birthdays on this day. In 1847, the inventor of the incandescent bulb, Thomas Edison. One of my favorite actors in 1926, Leslie Nielsen. Remember him from Airplane? A hospital, what's that? It's a building with patients, but that's not important. And don't call me Shirley. In 1934, Manuel Noriega. In 1936, another one of my favorite movies, The Bandit, Burt Reynolds' birthday. In 1953, the governor of California, Jeb Bush. One of my favorite songwriters in 1962, Sheryl Crow. An actress in 1969, Jennifer Aniston. And governor of Alaska has a birthday in 1964, Sarah Palin. So a lot of birthdays today. All right, some undeniable truth of life. I totally take back, these are for adults, by the way. I totally take back all those times when I missed and I didn't want to take a nap when I was younger. Nothing sucks more than that moment during an argument when you realize you're wrong. I can't remember the last time I wasn't at least a little tired. Bad decisions make good stories. You never know when it'll strike, but you know there's a moment during the day that you're not going to do anything productive the rest of the day. I think the freezer deserves a light. I have a really hard time deciphering the fine line between boredom and hunger. And how many times is it appropriate to say what before you just nod because you and smile because you still don't understand what the person was saying to you? All right, here's some things you'll never hear a redneck say. Checkmate. The tires on that truck are too big. I just couldn't find anything at Walmart. I'll take the small bag of pork rinds. Honey, did you mail that donation to Greenpeace? Wrestling's fake. You can't feed that to the dog. You'll never hear that. Duct tape won't fix that. And finally, you'll never hear a redneck say, I'll take Shakespeare for 1,000, Alex. So a couple's walking through the mall on Christmas Eve. The mall was packed. They were walking through the mall. Then the surprised wife looked around and noticed that her husband was nowhere to be found. She was very, very upset. They had a lot to do. So she got on her cell phone to call her husband. She was so upset. She says, "Where are you? Where are you? Oh my gosh." Husband in a calm voice, "Oh, honey, it's okay. Remember that jewelry store we went to 5 years ago? You fell in love with that diamond necklace that we couldn't afford, and I told you I would get it for you one day." She starts crying. "Oh yeah, I remember that. I can't believe you remember that store." He said, "I'm in the bar next to it." So a friend of mine's got 2 box tickets for the Super Bowl in Houston or in LA. Paid $5,000 a piece. He didn't realize when he bought them that was the day of his wedding. So now he can't go. So if you know someone who'd be interested, go to his place. It's at St. Peter's Church in New York City at 5 o'clock. Her name is Darlene. She's 5'4", 115, good cook. She makes $90,000 a year. She'll be the one in the white dress. Okay, we do have some fines. If you don't want the snow to melt, that'll be $1. If you have never been to Las Vegas, that'll be $1. If you haven't been to any basketball game this season, that'll be $1. I know some of you go to UD or Wright State. If you have been to the Super Bowl at the actual game, that'll be $1.
They can afford more than $1.
I know, that's what I'm saying. If you've ever advertised during a Super Bowl on TV, that should be like $50. Let's see. If you've never seen the movie Airplane with Leslie Nielsen, that'll be $1. And if you've never seen Smoking the Bandit, that'll be $1. And if you own any Sheryl Crow music, that's also $1. So happy bucks.
Thank you very little. Happy bucks. Who's happy?
I'll give a happy buck. Isaac played hockey this year for the first time. His team, they have the winningest season that Beavercreek has ever had.
Oh, wow.
We're getting ready to go into tournaments. I expect them to win probably the tournaments. I just gotta say, last night was their gala, and basically one of the seniors stood up and they were talking about the team and the community and everything else, and it really kind of sank in that we're all fortunate to live in Beavercreek. I mean, we have great youth. We're all very passionate, and it's just amazing to watch them play.
That's great. What position do you play?
Defense.
Defense. Sir. I know we're talking about a lot of football, but hockey is the greatest sport ever invented.
I've never watched a game before in my life. I'm hooked. It's pretty awesome.
What other game can you punch the opponent in the face, sit out for 2 minutes, come back in, score, win the game? I mean, that's the greatest thing ever. And knives on your feet.
I got a happy birthday. Tomorrow, my wife and I will be celebrating our 56th wedding anniversary.
It'll be $56, sir.
I made a down payment.
Yeah. Anyone else? Here, I'll put a happy 5 for them Bengals.
All right.
Our guest has a
Our guest, Brandon.
Again, hi, I'm Brandon. I show up every few months. I feel bad. So I went to Costa Rica last time I was here. I was like, I'm going to Costa Rica, and it was wonderful. I highly recommend it. Flights out of Dayton to Atlanta and then direct were $300 round trip. So it was a steal. And I spotted 91 bird species, very proud. 60 were new. But the best one was my wife has always wanted to see a toucan. But they're not as common as you think. And we pull into this parking lot of a national park. We get out of the car. There's only one other car in the parking lot, and this guy goes, "What bird is that?" We turn around. There's a big toucan just sitting in the tree. Only one we saw the entire time. Gorgeous. So had a great time. Unfortunately, while we were literally on the flight there, my stepfather passed away. He had gotten COVID. He was vaccinated, but was a double lung transplant and needed a kidney transplant. So he was very high risk. And they told my wife and I, please go to Costa Rica. And that week he went on the ventilator and we never got to speak to him again. But it was just a good reminder for me to talk more to the ones you love, ask them questions. I have a lot of regrets about not asking him more things, just about his life, his career. So it was a very eye-opening experience because I hadn't lost anyone. Last person I lost was my grandmother when I was 12. So it had been nearly 20 years since I lost someone. So it was very eye-opening for me. I then came back from Costa Rica, flew straight down to help my mother for a week. I picked up COVID while I was there, and so I did not make it back to our first meeting, or my first meeting back, because I was COVID positive. And then we had the snowstorm, and so that's why you haven't seen me. But the other thing I'm really excited about is I announced this week that I put my business up for sale. For those who know, I own the Advanced Running Project, a local running company. I just made the decision I want to be more available to my wife and to the child we're about to have, to this club. And so the good
Not
news
in that
is-
order, right?
Yes, this one first. So, but there's interest in buying. That was the big thing. I was terrified I was going to put it up and nobody would be interested. And so I'm optimistic I'm going to have a buyer. So, and as a hardcore Bengals fan for 4 weeks.
Well, welcome to Beavercreek Rotary. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, let's do the winning ticket here. Last 4 digits, 9627. Oh, there we go. What does she need to pick again on?
She got it.
No way. All right, we're going to Fridays. What's the, how much is the pot?
$223.
Wow. All right. All right, going to our annual Christmas basket. Thank you very much. All right, do we have any announcements? All right, we'll move forward with our program then. Doug is here to talk about identity theft and protection. He was actually a no-show today, so coming to speak as his identity would be Pete Bayless. You guys all have to clap at once.
Yeah, thank you.
Taking the identity.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So, yeah, I talked to Doug last June or July, and he was really excited to come. And so I told him, well, we're scheduling out into October, November, and those dates didn't work. And he said, well, what do you got in February? And so we signed him up, confirmed, and he must not have been that excited, so he didn't show. So as I'm walking in today, Steven said, speaker's not here. I said, well, I gave a speech to a bunch of city managers about 3 months ago about my life, and maybe our Rotary Club would be interested in hearing it. And remember, I don't know if you guys have ever done classification talks. I'm sure you have from time to time. So whatever, this is just a little bit about my life, and I think that some of you may find it interesting because it has been different in the last 3 or 4 years than kind of the way I had envisioned it to go. And so I put this presentation together, and I did a webinar nationally, and there were probably 200 or 300 city managers that logged on to listen, because as I was climbing through the ranks of public service, I transitioned to become an elected official, and that's kind of unique and different and strange and so forth. And so anyway, it's called Lead Like You're Elected, and this kind of the story that I went through the last few years. And so this is me. I like to tell this this story about this picture here. I used it in my election campaign, but really it's not about me, it's about that tie, right? Every single time I wear that tie, I get like a dozen compliments and I feel like awesome. And so whenever I'm going anywhere like really important, I put that tie. That is a iridescent bunch of fish.
Is that a Garcia or what?
It's not a Jerry Garcia. It's a Loma Linda is the manufacturer. And I have looked on the internet to find more of these ties and I can't find them.
Really?
So anyway, I've been married to Amanda, my wife, 18 years this year. 2 great kids, a sophomore, Jack is a sophomore, and my daughter Kara's in 6th grade. Obviously, Beavercreek City Council member. You guys know about our community. I'm an entrepreneur, and that's something new to me. With Local Gov Consultants, a company I started several years ago now. And as a part of that, I'm serving as the Bath Township Administrator. And then obviously public servant and community advocate.
Suggestion,
Yeah,
you should add Rotarian.
yeah, right. Well, had I known I was going to give this speech today, I definitely would. Right. So this is kind of a synopsis of my career. And I started my career in 1994 after graduating from the Ohio State University. I came back to Beavercreek and I got an opportunity to work in the Parks and Recreation Department. My field of study was public parks and recreation management, and so it kind of made sense. The director of parks called me up. He knew I was looking for a job, and he said, there may be a lot of transition happening in Beavercreek, and if you want to come intern for me for the summer, it may turn into a full-time job. And so I jumped on it. And that's where it all began. I was an intern in the Parks Department. The director took a new job. The assistant director moved up, and I moved into the recreation program supervisor's role and loved it. I learned all about the community, of course, all the parks we've got, all the recreation programs and special events. And then in 2002, the director of Parks and Recreation opportunity opened up in Fairborn. And so I threw my name in the hat and I obtained that job, and I served in Fairborn for 17 total years as the director of Parks and Recreation from 2002 to 2010. When I got a promotion to be the Public Works Director, they called it Public Administrative Services Director, similar to what we have here in Beavercreek with Mike Thonero. And then in 2015, got another promotion to the Assistant City Manager. So my career has been completely in municipal government service in Greene County, which is really cool. And then in 2019, everything kind of came to a screeching halt. Fairborn had a new administrator, new city manager, and he started bringing in new staff. And the bottom line is brought in a new assistant city manager, and the writing was on the wall, and so I lost my job. And that was tough. I don't know if anybody has been in that situation before, but 17 years in one community, 25 years or so in public service, and you're out. And it's really hard. I still get a little choked up about it because Fairborn had become kind of my second home, even though I've lived in Beavercreek my whole life. And anyway, it was tough. So I went home and I told my wife, luckily I'd had a long lead time, had 4 or 5 months to prepare. And we decided, what do we want to do next? What does my life look like next? And if I wanted to keep my career path going in city management, it would likely mean we would have to move. We'd have to leave Beavercreek and our kids and school and everything else. So we decided that that was not an option. We love our neighborhood, we love our friends, we love the schools, we love the community. And so I said, well, how about this idea? how about I continue my public service a different way and I run for city council? That would keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on locally and keep me networked with other elected officials and city managers in the region. And it would continue to pay into my retirement, which I had had 6 years in. She said, you spend the next, that was in July, spend the next 4 months winning the election, and then we'll figure it out. So that's what I did. It was exciting, challenging, scary. Didn't really know what I was doing, but it was fun. And so, you know, there was a ton of different decisions we had to make. How are we going to make money? How are we going to support the family? Luckily, my wife has a good job. And so that was not as important as just kind of being healthy and happy and so forth. Learning how to run a campaign was something that I'd never done before, but being involved in local government, you kind of think you know what you're doing, but in reality, it's a lot different, and I'll get into that. The rest of my colleagues in city management were not as thrilled with my idea. They were not as thrilled. I mean, I literally heard every one of these. You've gone to the dark side, you know. In fact, my wife said, you spent 25 years talking about these politicians. Are you sure you're in it? You know, one city manager looked at me and said, your career is over. And holy cow, that was tough to hear. How are you ever going to support your family? Well, that was a legitimate question. I mean, the city council salary doesn't really do it. But and then this was an interesting one. Will the city council want you as a part of their group? And I thought that was really weird because you know, what do you mean? I've got a lot of experience I could bring to the table. And one of our county commissioners pulled me aside and he said, give you a little piece of advice, and I'll never forget. He said, for the first 6 months, don't rock the boat. Don't say anything. Just listen and learn. Because there are a few council members that kind of wonder what your motive is. I thought that was interesting, and I took that to heart, and you know, worked on relationship building with the council members and with the community and so forth to learn what's important to them as a group. And I thought that those were interesting comments. So it wasn't easy running for office, but it was definitely worth it. It was an experience that I'll never forget. To serve our community has been fantastic, but it was hard along the way. And I get into the weeds here. I'm probably not going to do this here, but you know, there's all sorts of paperwork you have to fill out. You have to do it right, or you get kicked out, and that's stressful and so forth. You know, there's all sorts of campaign reporting and finance reporting that I'd never thought of before. And so your life does become a little bit of an open book. So I had to kind of mentally prepare myself for that. I had to define why I wanted to do it. And I've told you, there's a lot of different reasons, but you know, basically for me, it was easy. As a lifelong resident of Beavercreek and someone who really cared about public service, I think that it was a real natural fit for me to step into that role and really embrace the direction that Beavercreek's going, to be able to impact the direction that Beavercreek's going. And but you definitely had to be ready to address these, because you get all sorts of questions during a campaign that you might not think about hot button issues, of course, and then these off topic issues that aren't even city related. People want to talk to you about, the president's policies and everything else. We have nothing to do with. And then, the bottom line, listen, I spent a lot of time just listening to people, taking notes, understanding what didn't have to be a dialogue. I didn't have to always defend the city, just listen. And I thought that was really good. The next slide, this is a part of running a campaign. This was part of my campaign strategy. And there was basically 3 different parts to it. A lot of research up front that I did, gathering information, so forth. And then all this pre-campaign information. Am I going to use? What kind of media am I going to use? Am I going to use social media? Am I going to mail things out? All of these things you have to think about, spend money on, and so forth. And then actually engaging in door-to-door campaigning and so forth. Anyway, this was kind of a slide that I found early on. It kind of helped me guide my campaign and decide what was important to me and kind of how I was going to do it. And spent a lot of time walking neighborhoods and knocking on doors. All right, next, there we go. So, and this was kind of the crux of the conversation I had with elected officials or with city managers. The elected official mindset and why it's different than a city manager. Because I didn't really know that it would be, but it's completely different. And for there's a lot of elected officials in here. I think you can sympathize with this. After you're elected, you have just worked your butt off for 6 months and you've listened to your constituents. And then you get appointed on the council and so forth, and you have to start making decisions that affect every single one of them in one way or another. And so the weight of those decisions is different when you're elected, because when you're appointed and you're a professional like Alex and Pete, they're giving us their professional recommendations, which are 99% of the time perfect. But the decision that you're making on that policy affects those 50,000 people in Beavercreek. And it's a different weight and it's hard for me to describe, but you want to give it its due thought process. And then there are 6 other council members that you have to work with and collaborate with and talk to and kind of understand that you are a singular council member. You can't make the sole decision like a policy with city management or township administrator and so forth. So you've got to build these relationships and work on them. And then obviously remember the big picture, which is the community. And so this is the happy ending of the story. Shortly after I started running my campaign in August or so, left Fairborn in July, 1st of August, my cell phone just started ringing. And it was from other city managers, other communities that said, Pete, I could use your help. I've got a problem. I don't have the resources, staff time, or expertise to solve it. And you're not currently working, or if you've got time, could you help me? And so this is my company, Local Gov Consultants. It was kind of just born out of necessity of other communities. And I said yes. And so my first job was with the Miami Conservancy District. I did a master plan for all of their maintenance facilities. It was kind of right in line with my background, public works and parks and recreation and so forth. And so I met with Janet Bly, their executive director, and did this master plan for them. The city of Riverside called me shortly thereafter, and I worked on a zoning project for them. Then Bath Township called, and for any of you who are following news in Bath Township, they've got a number of legal issues they're dealing with. Their employees have started organized bargaining unit. They have no personnel rules and regulations at the time. And they said, their trustees said, we can't do this anymore. Can you come in and help? And so I started that. Since then, and those are all contracts and they all add up to various number of hours per week and so forth. Since then, I've added 3 part-time staff that work for me in different communities. One is working 20 hours a week in Trotwood. We're about to do some more extended work in Beavercreek Township, perhaps with some marketing campaigns. And then just last week, this is kind of an interesting one. The Montgomery County Common Pleas Court called and said, I hear you solve problems. I said, how'd you get my name? That was random, out of the blue. Never met their court administrator before. And he said, nah, just a referral from talking to some colleagues. And so now I'm providing finance director type services for the Montgomery County Common Pleas Court while they do a search for their next finance director. And so it really is interesting. It keeps me involved in many different communities, not only Beavercreek, and networked, and actually I believe helps me become a better elected official because I get to see what's going on in all the other communities. So I think that's it. Yep, that's just me in my ugly picture again. So I was happy to fill in on short notice today. I think I hope I provided you a little bit more about me and what's been going on for the last, that's about 3 years now. So anyway, any questions? Go ahead, Eric.
So you didn't run for office for the huge salary?
No. I believe I get a paycheck every month from the city for about $700 or so. Yeah, didn't do that. Yeah.
Have you had any situations yet where your private business created that conflict that you have to deal with?
No, I purposely avoid all of the city of Beavercreek, of course. I have had a couple of questions to the Ohio Ethics Commission, so they've given me actual rulings because it's something I am very cognizant of. Obviously, if anything were to come up that I had been involved in, that was a council decision, I would recuse myself from that. But no, I try and stay away from anything that would present an issue that way. But yeah.
Where do you think you'll go from here?
Well, I think that 2020 at the end of 2023 will be another election. I love being a city council member. Yeah, I didn't really talk about it. We have, I believe, and I've seen a lot of councils in my career, the most cohesive council that I've ever seen. We don't always agree, but we do it respectfully. We communicate with one another openly and honestly. I think it's just fantastic. So my intention is to run again.
One, thank you for the short notice presentation, and two, as a Bath Township resident, I'm a happy resident, so things are going well, so thank you. But question is, hardest part of the campaign, especially given you had never done one before, and then you just jump in a whole new world.
It's a grind. The last month of the campaign is a full-time job. Where I probably spent 40 hours a week for the last month of the campaign, talking to people, knocking on doors. I mean, you can knock on doors all for months. Organizing the committee to help and just coming up with a strategy that made sense to get the word out, and then actually doing it was just a lot of work, you know. So I relied on friends and family a lot. We met every weekend for the 4 weeks prior to the election, and I had little note cards about my campaign, and I'd give everybody a stack of 50. Just knock on, and a list of a map, you know, so take this area and just knock on doors and read them out. It was tough. And keeping the signs up, what a pain. Yes. Right, Don? I mean, the signs are, I wonder really how much value those signs are. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks again for the short notice. It was really nice getting to know you better, because I actually know you from Fairborn when I was in Fairborn Rotary, and I don't, for whatever reason, I always tied you to Fairborn, but I didn't realize you've lived in Beavercreek for so long. So yeah, very inspiring story. So he did forget to mention, though, identity theft is a real thing, so be careful. Be careful out there. Anything else? We handpicked this for you because Beth is that good. It's called Minecraft, The Crash. No association. Anything else? All right, let's stand for the pledge. Flag's over here. Pete, would you like to lead it?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hooray.
Good meeting. Just that, man.
We